Welcome back, everybody. We had that nice long break of like 3 or 4 days, I guess it was, 3 days, and now we're back at it. But as we were just talking about earlier here, a couple minutes ago, this is a super fun class. You get to design your business, and if you don't have any idea about what you want to do for a business. Don't worry about it. This is not about necessarily like black and white and right and wrong and do this or don't do this. This is about having fun. This is about go nuts. Build your own, build your concept however you want to. I don't necessarily need you to have a specific design in mind. I don't need you to have specific even a specific plan in life. So sorry, I'm gonna mute.
Finish your food or we'll put it in a bowl or something.
So if you don't be intimidated by this class is what I'm trying to say overall. It should be, it's meant to be fun. There's a lot of there's a lot of information regarding specifics of your layout, specifics with equipment. And you're gonna hear the word flow about 1,000 times, if not more, in this class. And so flow is very, very, very important to me. And I've been involved in a lot of restaurants that had awful flow. I've been involved with chains that designed restaurants very improperly, and had to deal with as a cook, had to deal with poor designs and poor flow. And so when we're looking at designing our own business, honestly, most of us probably won't get to the point where we get to build our own space from the ground up. It's just not very likely. It's very, very costly. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And so, when we're looking at this, there's a lot of things that we can really focus on to develop a better understanding of simple things like moving a couple pieces of equipment around, or where should I have my hand sink in relation to my grill, things like that. If I have a lot of my dry storage, how far can my mixer be away so that I can make my cakes and then cook them and then proof them and then cool them, right? If I'm dealing with bread, I want to make sure that everything's streamlined. So I do my doughs, I do my proofing, and then goes to my oven, and then I get a cooling rack. And so if I'm running all around my kitchen to make that happen, that's poor flow, poor design. And there are some things we can do oftentimes with an existing space and existing design. Just by shifting a couple things around, a lot of times you can make your flow a lot more efficient. And not only is this going to help us from a standpoint of efficiency and eliminate fatigue for our employees, it's also going to help us make more money. The faster we can produce products, the more money we're going to make, right? And David is giving the thumbs up there because we're all here to figure out how to make more money, right? Make more money. Okay, so before we jump in, a couple of little housekeeping things, I guess. Hopefully you are all pretty well versed on how the courses are laid out by now. This course, similar to the last one, has 2 discussion forums. The first one is actually in week 1. So we're going to go over that tonight. And then the second one's in week 5. So if you didn't do those last class, you're probably not with us tonight because you probably didn't pass the class, okay? These discussion forums are worth 40% of your grade. So I can't stress this enough. Please, please, please do the discussion forums. If you don't do them, very, very hard to pass the class, okay? You basically have to get 100% on everything else and view all the lessons every week if you didn't do the forums, and then you'd only pass with a 60. And who wants that, right? So make sure you're staying on top of those forums. These ones are fun in this class too. It should be a good way for us to interact with each other and get a better understanding of what everyone's concepts is doing. So that's really what this class is about too, is giving each other feedback. Hey, I like your food truck, but I think it, is maybe a little tight. Maybe you're going to have some production issues. Or I like your food truck. Where'd you figure out that? Where'd you find that oven? I'm doing a bakery. Is there an oven that you think is similar? You know, that's the kind of conversations we want to get going with these with these discussion forums, so that we can help each other better understand our own businesses, and then develop a better understanding of what everybody else is doing at the same time. Okay. All right. So couple of things. First, I'm going to go over the facility layout tool. So when we are working on, I think, all but one assignment in this class, we are going to be using the same tool, which you can make a copy of at the top of the class page. And let me just actually go there and show you folks so we know where it's at. So very important that you check this out, make a copy of it sooner than later. And the reason being is that we are going to be using this thing again for the entire class. If you don't do week 1 assignment, you can't do week 3, 4, and 5. So please make sure you're keeping up to date with the assignments and getting ahead of things if you can, so that we have everything very organized and we're getting good grades on all of our assignments. So, okay, so facility layout tool is located up here at the top. So this is above week 1. Okay, that is the little link you want to click on. Okay, so this is up by the syllabus here. Okay, that's what we want to click on. We're going to make a copy of that tool. And then what that looks like, see if I can find it here. There it is this. Now, each week does not correspond with the numbers on the sheets, okay? So just even though week 1 happens to be slide 1, week 3 is not slide 3, okay? So make sure you're reading the assignments, you know, attending the live session if you can, if not watching the archives, so that we know what we're working on when we're working on it. Okay, so week 1 assignment, first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna copy your menu from CE185 up top here. Okay, give me the link at the top. And I'm terrible at drawing. Chef Caesar, are you better at doing doodling than I am here? All right, well, that's supposed to be a little circle at the top there. As you can see, it's not, but this is where you're gonna put your link, up here at the top, okay? Hopefully you guys all have a copy of your menu. If you don't, let me know sooner than later, and we'll help you figure something out. But hopefully you all have a copy of your menu from CE185. That's where the big chunk of your grade, because if I don't know what your concept is, what you're working on, and it's going to be hard for me to give you a grade. Okay. Now, next thing we want to do on this assignment is we're going to list out 5 items. I only need 5 items. Okay. If you have 100 items on your menu and you feel like listing them out, that's okay. But the minimum requirement to get a good grade on this is 5. So menu item, such as crab cakes, wheat bread, you know, ginger ale, maybe you're doing a house-made ricotta cheese, and then you're doing a, you know, steak frites. Okay, so those are my 5 items. Next thing I'm going to do is list out my components. Now, components and ingredients are different. When I talk about ingredients, what I'm talking about are the items I listed under wheat bread. Okay. Now, why did I list my ingredients here? Because I don't have any components to wheat bread. Wheat bread components are wheat bread. Okay. Components to my crab cakes could be crab cakes, aioli, capers, and greens. What that means is my dish, my plate of crab cakes, consists of crab cakes, aioli, capers, greens. Okay. So those of us who are doing a bakery where you don't have components because you're just literally serving bread or a cake with frosting, etc., then just list your ingredients, everything that it takes to to compile your cake or your bread or what have you. Those of us who are doing, something like a more traditional restaurant concept or a food truck concept, we're going to list the components of those. Okay. So let me give you another example. Talked about steak frites. So components there: steak, fries, fry sauce, horseradish. Okay. What's another example? Grilled cheese sandwich. And you can see how this is kind of relating back to the costing sheets we did in 165, right? We first costed out our steak, then costed out our fries and our sauce. Or we first costed out our crab cakes, then we costed out our aioli, okay? So similarly, we're going to use components of the dish, or what goes into my plate to make it a completed dish for my guest. What does the guest see in front of them on the plate? Okay. So in this example, grilled cheese sandwich with fries, I'm going to have maybe ketchup. Done. Okay. Those are my components. So the only exception is going to be if we have just traditional bakery where we're not doing anything that involves, sides, sauces, toppings, things like that. Okay. Station. Now, when we talk about stations, there's a lot that goes on there. You can use Auguste Escoffier's traditional brigade system and say garde-manger, sauté, saucier, et cetera. If your French is good, especially, I recommend you do that. But otherwise, you just tell me who's making this food. Where is this food being made? Okay, wheat bread's made by my baker. Crab cakes made by Prep, Sauté, Expo. Okay, those are 3 stations to make the one item. Starts in the prep station, gets cooked on my sauté station, ends on my expo station or my expediting station. With my bread, I don't have that. Okay, I could list, maybe bread prep or dough or sponge, something like that. But overall, if you just have your baker making your baked items, that's all you need to list. Okay, very simple. For something like my steak fries, I'm going to say grill and fry station, or grill and fryer. Okay. Grilled cheese, griddle, fryer. One thing I'm be looking for on these is that you don't have, actually this is a good example of a bad example. Every single station here is other than the fryer is listed only once. What that tells me is that my flow is not going to be great. If I have 5 items and I have 6 or 8 different stations that are involved to create those 5 items, it's going to be tough. Okay, what I want to have is cross utilization. Okay, so that means one person, one station is doing multiple things. For example, maybe my crab cakes end up on my griddle. And I decide I don't want to grill my steak. I'm going to do all that on my griddle as well. Now, I've just eliminated steps. Okay. So I have 3 dishes that are all being prepared on one station. Okay. Now, last thing we're going to do on this assignment is equipment. I want you to list start to finish. Okay. So for this example, for our bread, mixer, proofing rack, oven, cooling rack. Okay, those are all the areas that I need. All the equipment I'm using to produce this loaf of bread. For my crab cakes, mixer, food processor, heat lamp is where it ends up. refrigerator, stove, saute pan, right? Those are all the areas where those crab cakes are before they go to the customer, okay? And the equipment that is used to produce the crab cakes. Is everybody with me on all that? Yeah? Cool. Now, the reason that we're doing this and we're listing out everything individually for this assignment is that later on we're going to go through, and actually I'll just share again with you real quick. We're going to actually assign these colored workflow labels to individual items, and then we're going to show the steps involved to produce the crab cakes. So we're going to show our stove. It starts on our food processor, goes to our cooler, goes to our stove, goes to our heat lamp, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to show those steps, the progression to produce that dish. And that's why it's very important that we do this assignment and list out everything very thoroughly. Slide 2 on this thing is just descriptions of what you're going to be doing for future assignments. So don't worry about this too much right off the bat. And then, as you go through this, you'll see, you have a kitchen design, you have front of house design, you have a food truck design if you're doing a food truck. Those of us who are doing like a private chef gig, we can just use the same kitchen design and shrink these walls down. You can move walls, you can delete walls, you can move doors around, you can move equipment around. You see all this equipment on the right side of my screen here, right? This should be everything you can imagine is over here. So again, we're building our dream space. There's not a right or wrong answer. If you create a 10,000 square foot kitchen and you want to serve 30 people a day, I'm probably going to take some points off because this is probably not realistic, right? You're going to spend a lot of money, have a lot of labor, like we talked about in last class, and it's not going to be very efficient. Okay, so make sure that when we're working on this space, working on this design, that it makes sense for your concept. Okay. Now, since I'm talking about that, let me just do another quick screen share with you guys. So when we're thinking about our design, how we want to set our space up, a couple things are important. One is, what kind of mood do you want to create? Okay. With this particular bakery, this is a high-end bakery. Nothing's super expensive necessarily, but for the most part, this is the type of place that has kind of a rustic, high-end kind of feel, okay, for a bakery. So when I'm working on my design, I want to be looking at other bakeries that are similar to that. If this is my menu for my bakery, I want to think about what the guest's perception is, what the guest sees when they walk in the door. If they walk into the door and I have white tablecloths and fancy glassware and I'm serving grilled cheese sandwiches, probably not going to work that well. Okay, those things do not resonate off each other, and that's really what this class is about, is creating. For more or less, we're creating this symbiosis, right? We're creating this pattern, this partnership where your menu balances with your front of house design, which reflects your back house design, which overall should just really resonate what you want to do, what feel your business has. So when we're looking at something like this, there is a lot of different items. Okay, they have tons and tons and tons of items for a bakery. This is going to be a 1,000 square foot space, and it's going to require some specialized equipment. Okay, this bakery is going to need some hot equipment beyond an oven. Okay, so if you look down, give me 1 second here. So if you look down here, these savories, right? I have salads, I have foie gras, I have sandwiches, Okay, so this type of bakery needs burners, maybe needs a grill. It's going to need a griddle, possibly. Okay, so they're going to need a lot more equipment than just a couple ovens. If your bakery is just one section of this menu, like for example, if you're just doing cookies and cupcakes, you don't need to have burners. You don't need to have, necessarily have a grill. You don't need to have multiple ovens. You probably don't need 1,000 square foot space. So we can look at reducing that space down, making it smaller to reflect what we're doing. What is our menu? Okay. What do you want to do with food? What do you want the customers to, how do you want to accommodate the customers overall? Let's see here. Okay, another menu here. Okay, so this is a food truck menu. And, not all food trucks are alike, right? I know a lot of you were talking about doing, food trucks that were bakery specific, doing cupcakes only, things like that. So what does your food truck feel like? When I'm walking by your food truck, what does it look like? What does it make me crave? Like how are you drawing your guests in, and who are you drawing in specifically? What kind of guests? Okay, what's your demographic? These are important things. And this is all based off your menu. This is why we started with the menu in CE 185, is because now we're just building on it and building on it. Okay, so this food truck is not somewhere you're going to take your family in the middle of the day, probably. Okay, this food truck is catering to people who are just leaving the bar, right? Their names are all, similar to or insinuating that people are intoxicated and they've been drinking, right? So this is a type of food truck that maybe has a dark, hip kind of signage. They're going to have maybe some loud music playing, and overall, it's going to be the type of place that people are going to after they're partying for the night. Okay, so not something that you're going to have, some nice bouquets of flowers and kind of lawn chairs and things like that out in front of it. That is not this food truck. Okay, so regardless of what you're doing, food truck, bakery, private chef, full service restaurant, you want to make sure that you start with your menu and think about what your mood is, what the feel is, what the vibe is that you want to create, and then build off of that. Because your chairs, your tables, your flooring, your kitchen equipment, all this starts with your menu. Okay, so I really want you guys to really focus on that menu you created in CE 185 and really think about, again, who's your target customer. Okay, that's the number one important thing. What type of people are you trying to feed? Okay, you can't just say I'm trying to feed everybody. Okay, because there aren't many concepts out there that do that. Okay, you can't target a mass audience like that. You want to start with targeting a niche, a specific group of people, and then build from that. Okay. I've had students in the past that decided they wanted to change their menu, change their concept. If you want to do that, now's a great time to do it. I'm all about that. I'm very much behind you and supportive of you. If you decide you want to create a different concept than you thought you did initially, you will have to obviously create a different menu or some different menu items, but we can certainly do that. Okay. And again, if you don't think you're ever going to open your own business, this is still very, very, very valuable information. I worked for the corporate breakfast chain for 5 years here based out of Denver. And we redesigned our kitchens dozens of times, and I was an integral part of that design, and I learned a ton about design. Okay, if I had even done this to use these tools once before I began that job, I probably would have been a lot more productive for the company. I probably would have made more money, and overall, that it would have been more beneficial to that company. Okay, so just because you don't want to necessarily do your own concept or you don't have your own concept figured out yet, doesn't mean these aren't very important things to look at. Okay. The design stuff is crucial. And if you know, I've walked into a lot of places that have pretty good food, but their design is awful, or their vibe is awful, or, you know, they just don't have a good feel. And it's not the kind of place that you want to go back to, okay? Just because of design, decor, ambiance. Those are all very important pieces of your restaurant concept. Okay. All right, so when we're looking at starting our design and equipment lists, there's a lot of different options out there. Okay, I'm not ever going to say to you, you can't put that there or you can't have that piece of equipment. I am going to want it to reflect back on your menu when we start doing our design, whether it's front of house or back of house. It should reflect back to your menu. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you can't, you know, think outside the box and do some different things. It should be efficient. Okay, so let's look at this. Is very small bakery, in my opinion, anyway. But I think it's very efficient. Okay, all their dry storage over here against the wall. Storage containers here. Prep surface. Mixer. Oven. Cooling rack. Everything, this could be a 1-person or 2-person kitchen very, very easily and be very efficient. They have enough storage containers to suggest they're doing a lot of volume. Okay, so this small space could actually be a huge production. Okay, just with one oven. Now, if we went back to that menu we were looking at earlier, and they had you know, foie gras and tuna niçoise salads and things like that on there, I would say absolutely not. Right? Where's your stove? Where are you prepping your, you know, where are you prepping your foie gras? You know, you need more cold storage, you need more hot production items, things of that nature. Okay. So again, looking back to your menu before you start really getting into your design is going to help you out a lot in this class. All right, next slide. Okay, so this is a good example of a private chef type situation. Most of us who are doing a private chef gig are probably going to be working with some high-end customers, people who can afford to bring a chef into their own home and pay them to do you know, some higher-end meals for them. So when we're looking at doing our design for this class, we want to design that based on what we think our customers' kitchens are going to be like. Okay. And again, these are just, you know, there isn't a right or wrong here. You know, this is, you're basing these off of pictures you find online, your own experience, your own kitchens. You know, we'll get a chance to look at other students' designs and whatnot as well. So we're going to really help each other, learn from each other, learn from businesses you go into in your area, or places that you've been that you thought were, that you enjoyed, that you thought felt nice, right? Had a good vibe to them. So again, this is an efficient use of space for multiple reasons here. The first one being that, you know, you have a lot of storage. You have centralized island type cooktop, which gives you access to the sink easily, access to your refrigerator easily, and access to prep areas easily over here, okay, and here. So this, to me, is an efficient kitchen. One thing I'm gonna be looking for when we're doing our designs, that you don't have what we refer to as bottlenecking. And what I mean by that is that all of the food or all your production does that, right? It all ends up in that same area, okay? So if everything was crammed into one corner here, that would produce bottlenecking. That would produce, you know, that would be inefficient use of our space. Mobile kitchens. Now, it's almost more important in my mind to make sure that your food truck kitchens are more efficiently built than restaurant spaces. Reason being is a lot of our food trucks are looking at 200-ish, maybe less square feet maximum. And so every square inch of your space counts for a lot. Okay. I don't know if I told you guys this story yet, but when I was working for this corporate breakfast company and we're designing kitchens, we ended up getting into a space that was very small. I think it was probably about a 400 square foot kitchen. And this was a huge, high volume place. This is a place that's doing 600 plus covers a day, pushing $10,000 a day in sales. So very busy place for a 4,000 or 400 square foot kitchen. Okay. Now, we're going into this space. It's a little bit smaller than we're used to, and get all the designs done. And we get in there and we realize we didn't leave any space for trash cans in the kitchen. So you have these, your hot line where your production's occurring. And so in our case, we have like our saute station here. We're producing a lot of eggs, omelets, over easy eggs, et cetera, poached eggs. And so you have, constantly cracking eggs. You got nowhere to throw the shells. So it was disastrous, right? It was a mess. We had to have trash cans specifically designed that slid underneath the areas that we had space, and it ended up costing them a lot of money. And it still was not efficient, right? Because they had to pull out the trash can and drop it in there and then slide it back underneath. So thinking about all the little details of your design, including waste disposal, hand washing is a really big one. Where's your hand sink? Chef Caesar, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to have hand sinks within 15 feet. That sound about right?
Yes. And some places they're even closer. There's sometimes they have them right next to the line. I mean, I've seen kitchens that like right there next to like your grill, your stovetop. I mean, they're right next to you, like 5 feet away. So, and the closer they are, the better. Because I mean, many times you're gonna be like breading stuff, and you're gonna get your hands all messed up. So you want to rinse your hands real quick and get back to work. So, I mean, it's very important to have them right really close to you. You don't want to walk, 20 feet or 30 feet to wash your hands and then come back to a line when you're very busy. You need to be very efficient because, I mean, every second counts when you're busy. And, I mean, you only got like you said, the line between. I mean, this very small space to move back and forth between, like your probably cooler and your cooking equipment. So the closer it is, the better. You don't want to be walking like 5 feet from one end to the other. You're gonna waste a lot of time, and time is precious when you're working in the kitchen, especially when it's very busy, right, Chef? You've done this, so.
Great point. Yeah, great point. I think what essentially what Chef Caesar's saying too is what I keep saying. Your menu is very important, right? So your hand sink, when he's talking about doing things like breading, things that are going to go in a fryer, or handling raw meat, you want to make sure you have a hand sink right next to that station. Okay, because you don't want somebody breading your crab cakes to order and dropping them in the fryer and then grabbing the fryer baskets or grabbing pan handles with their nasty hands. You want to have hand sinks very close to your production area. So, I think I've mentioned to you guys that I've done a fair amount of butchering in my past, and so our space here in Denver has a hand sink in the walk-in cooler. Because when you're cutting up pigs or working with sausage, you're full of meat. You don't want to go push the door open and then touch who knows what on your way to back into the kitchen. So we put a hand sink in the walk-in cooler. And the great thing about using as many hand sinks as possible, number one, it makes you look great when you do your health inspection. Your health inspector comes in and says, "You got a lot of hand sinks in here." That's a great thing. That's going to make them happy. It's going to make your kitchen cleaner. And these things are cheap. Most hand sinks cost around $100, 150 to 180 on the high end. They're something you can definitely get used a lot of times as well. So, having at least, I would say every kitchen needs at least 2 hand sinks. one for production, and one for your dishwashing area. Because every time your dishwasher goes from dirty dishes to clean dishes, before they put those clean dishes away, they have to do a hand wash. Okay, that's health department requirements. So don't design your kitchen without 2 hand sinks minimum. The exception would be a food truck, where, as you can see here, everything is in with arm's reach pretty much. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to have 2 hand sinks in a small, very small space like this. Okay. Speaking of food trucks, again, looking at this from an efficiency standpoint, and just kind of seeing how things are all set up here, we want to look at a couple different things when we're talking about production. One is where we're cooking, okay? So that looks like a cooktop area to me. This possibly a griddle area, and then my holding area, okay? For some concepts, depending on your menu, you want to have an area where you hold food. What I mean is, say I'm making pulled pork sandwiches in my food truck. Okay, I'm going to cook my pork at my commissary kitchen the day before. I'm going to cool it. I'm going to bring it in my kitchen. I'm going to heat it up on my burners here. Then I'm going to transfer it to my steam well over here. And I'm going to hold it hot for service. That way, I get an order for a pulled pork sandwich. All I got to do is grab a pair of tongs, grab some pulled pork, throw it on a bun, put a piece of cheese on top, do a quick melt on it, and out it goes. Okay, that takes it from a 5 to 8 minute pickup time, meaning 5 to 8 minutes from start to finish to produce the dish, to about 2 minutes. So much, much, much more efficient. Again, look, make sure we have sinks located in our kitchen. Typically, for a food truck, you're going to want a hand washing sink and a prep and dishwashing sink. Okay, so at least 2 full sinks. Again, I said 1 hand sink's probably okay for a small space like this, but you're going to want multiple sinks because you have multiple different tasks that are requiring separate sinks. What I mean by that is a hand washing sink can only be used for hand washing. You can't even fill a cup of water in your hand sink. The only thing you can do is wash your hands. Okay. Okay, so that's kind of just the overall gist of our design and flow. We are going to talk a lot more about specifics with elements of design, but I just wanted to give you an overall feel for how how this kind of looks and what this course is going to be about. We're going to go through things more or less progressively. We're going to talk about our front of house design, including everything from paint and fixtures to chairs, a bar if we have one, maybe a prep area out front. I've been in kitchens before that actually relied a lot on the front of house to do some of the work for them. Meaning maybe you want to have, if you have salads, maybe you want to have your pantry station, your salad station out in front of house. Maybe your servers are doing, toasts and jellies for you. Maybe your servers are doing all the packaging for your cakes and your cupcakes and muffins and things like that. Okay. So being able to cross-utilize some space there may make a lot of sense for your concept, depending on your menu and what you're doing. Okay. All right, so I'm going to talk about equipment a little bit per Chef Caesar's little slideshow that he was kind enough to provide me. Okay, so the first thing we want to think about when we are considering, opening up a space, whether it's a pre-existing location or building it from the ground up, is equipment. Where do we go to get our equipment? What equipment do we need? Once again, do we need a walk-in cooler? Okay, if I'm just doing bread, I don't need a walk-in cooler necessarily. Okay, I may be able to get away with a couple of reach-in or closet basically type coolers versus a walk-in. Walk-ins are very expensive. They're very expensive to purchase. Usually minimum about $5,000 for a new walk-in cooler. They're expensive to run as well. They draw a lot of power, and so they're not necessarily the best choice for everybody. Okay. Now again, talking about my butchering concept, we have to have a walk-in cooler. Okay. All our meat production occurs in the walk-in cooler. So if you're doing a lot of meat fabrication, you want to make sure you have a walk-in cooler. If you're doing something that has a huge menu that you're changing constantly, you want to, again, make sure you have enough space to hold all your inventory. So you may want a walk-in cooler. Okay. The coolers have compressors on them. These can be mounted on rooftop typically. If you're in a situation where you have a lot of extra space or other spare rooms near where your walk-in is located, you can actually mount them inside as well. Chef Caesar, have you worked in a space that had an indoor mounted compressor before?
Yes, chef. Right. And sometimes there's enough room. They put them right on top of the walk-in cooler. Otherwise, I mean, if the ceiling is very high, they put them right on top. But sometimes when they do that, they're going to run hotter because, I mean, the air is going to be warmer on top. And those things need to be cooled down. I mean, you need to clean them on a regular basis. And sometimes it's better to keep them outside because they're going to get more air circulate, and it's going to cool down much quicker. The compressor itself is not going to heat up that fast.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that's exactly my thought. I have not worked anywhere that had an indoor mounted compressor for the walk-in, but a concern there is certainly the heat that it produces. And you don't necessarily want something that's producing heat next to your walk-in cooler, which main goal is to keep things cold, right? So walk-in freezer is also an option. Looks very, identical to a walk-in cooler, different compressor. Again, not everyone's going to need those. If you're doing a bakery concept where you want to pre-make a bunch of your cakes, your cupcakes, things like that, and freeze them, you may want to walk-in. Okay, it may be better to have a walk-in unit versus an upright or prep type unit like this. Okay, so this cooler is called a prep cooler, and all these things are located on the template that you guys are going to be working with. That's why we're going through this stuff. Okay, so prep cooler can be used for multiple things. This is usually something you're going to use for production. So this is something that's going to have all my mise en place for my sandwiches. If I'm making, sandwiches, it's going to have tomatoes and lettuce, vegetables, meats, cheeses, things like that. If I'm doing a breakfast concept, it's got eggs and, almond toppings and things like that in there. So these things were really cool. This is actually called a sandwich prep cooler. And so the way it's designed is so you can open and close those doors on top there. So when you're not using them, you can keep it cold without having to worry about opening big doors underneath and having to have the inefficiency of having to basically crawl under and reach in somewhere. Okay, so everything's organized nice and neat up top. Small pans. Typically, you're going to have your backup ingredients underneath this thing. Okay, they make things that are very similar to that called salad prep coolers, pizza prep coolers. They're all designed slightly differently, but for the most part, those are all coolers you're going to use on your hot line for production. Okay, during service, when a customer orders a sandwich, a salad, etc., those are the kind of coolers that you're going to use. Okay, versus an under-counter cooler. Now, under-counter coolers are great because they take up a little less space. They're substantially cheaper than that prep cooler we saw in the last slide. But the problem with them is they're not efficient to use on a line during service. Okay. In other words, if I have a salad that requires lettuce, dressing, tomatoes, bacon, and croutons, I can have all 5 of those items stored in my prep cooler on the top. So when I get that salad in, I open the top door, pinch of this, pinch of that, handful of lettuce, mix it up in my bowl, out the door it goes. If I have it in this cooler, guess what? I have 5 pans that I have to find in there, shuffling stuff around, trying to sort things out, and it's going to be very, very inefficient. Okay. That doesn't mean that this doesn't happen. Oftentimes, most times kitchens have a combination of this low boy under counter type refrigeration or freezer unit with some sandwich prep or salad prep units. These are, because like I said before, oftentimes these are almost half the price of those other units, okay? Reach-in cooler, we talked about those. So a lot of the folks, especially those of us doing a bakery, may not want a walk-in cooler. You can get these reach-in coolers substantially cheaper than a walk-in, and they can hold quite a bit of product, okay? There's single door and double door, meaning this one's a double door, right? So it has 2 doors, more real estate for storage. You can also get single doors. You can also get freezers that are the same way. Okay, these are also oftentimes called upright coolers, and they're typically not used for service, meaning this is where you store your backup ingredients. This is where you store your milk and eggs and butter and things like that that are used for production or prep before service starts. Coils are located on the back of your cooler, typically or on the side. This is where what pulls air in, basically. And so if you want to make sure you maintain these things, keep them clean. So if we refer to cleaning your coils out, this is what we're talking about is this area of the cooler. Typically, this is part of your preventive maintenance. You want to do this every 3 to 6 months, depending on your space. Quick cleaning note there. So you can certainly do them yourself. Quick cleaning note, scrub, water, etc. Or you can hire this out. Typically, brushes. Nice, David. Using brushes. Typically, they make, I think, brass bristle brushes. They work really well for those. And I think David made an overstatement there when he said invest, because it's like $2, right, to buy these brushes, and it's worth every penny. So absolutely, David. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, commercial fryers. This place that we're looking at here does a lot of fried foods, right? That is a massive fry station. Not all you need a fryer, but if you're doing a food truck, you're doing a concept that requires very quick ticket times, very fast, speedy service, you want to have a fryer. They're very efficient. They hold heat well. You can drop 10 pounds of chicken fingers in these things, and they're going to keep their heat, okay? They make electric fryers, gas fryers. They make all different sizes. You can get single basket, meaning they would just have 1 basket versus this one having 4. They make 2 basket, 3 basket. So depending on your menu, again, depending on how many fried items you have on your menu and how fast a service style you want, will dictate how many fryers you need or if you need a fryer at all. I've worked at plenty of concepts that didn't have fryers, that never used them. And, we did things on griddles or in saute pans. I love frying stuff personally because it's quick, it's fun, and it's delicious. So, but again, depends on your concept, right? Okay, cleaning of a fryer.
Hey, Chef.
Yes,
Chef. Even though I do, I'm usually in the candy business. I've actually thought about, deep fried Twinkies, deep fried Oreos. So I might be adding some of those to my concept and maybe getting a used fryer later. I'm thinking.
Nice. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, David, because used versus new equipment. Typically speaking, anything that is gas equipment, I think we talked about this a little bit last class. Is that right, Caesar? So
Yeah, sure. We talked about it a little bit, yes.
Yeah, okay. Just to reiterate, anything that's gas equipment, I recommend buying used, okay? So most fryers you're going to find are going to be gas. Any electric stuff, gets expensive to fix. And so I caution you against buying used electric equipment, especially coolers. Coolers are very expensive to repair. And so, buying those new is usually worth the money. Okay. Pizza ovens are another thing a lot of you might use, even if you're not doing pizzas. Maybe you want to do a wood-fired oven with flatbreads and things like that. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to do pizza, but if you have a pizza oven and you don't have anything that requires a pizza oven, it doesn't make sense for your concept, right? So again, figuring out your menu and then what equipment you need based on that, okay? Convection ovens, okay? So these use fans to circulate air so that they cook more evenly, okay? So these are great pieces of equipment if you're doing breads, baked goods, things of that nature. If you're just using them to warm things during service, if you're just doing a more traditional restaurant concept that doesn't have a lot of baking, don't invest in a convection oven. You won't need it. It's not necessarily something that you need for your space, and you're going to spend a lot more for them than you are for traditional ovens. Conveyor ovens are typically used for pizzas, flatbreads, things like that. You can also do sandwiches in them. If you're, build a sandwich, put it on your conveyor, it runs through, comes out nice, melty, crispy. So those are another great tool. The cool thing about these is you don't have to hover over them, and you don't have to have anyone maintaining them while you're cooking. Meaning, you put your sandwich on the conveyor, it comes out the other end. Put the pizza on the conveyor, comes out the other end. So you don't have to hover over it, constantly be, on top of it, making sure it doesn't burn, rotating it, things like that. Okay, range. So gas ranges. Again, a lot of us are going to need those, especially those of us who are doing traditional restaurant concepts. If we're not, and you're doing a bakery and you just need to melt chocolate every now and again, you can probably get away with an electric or induction burner. Okay, smaller burner, a lot cheaper. You won't need to worry about the hood system. You have your electric convection oven and your couple burners. Don't have to have a hood system installed at all. It's going to save you a lot of money in the end. Salamander, also called a cheese melter sometimes. They're slightly different, but more or less the same thing. This is great for if you're doing burgers that you're going to have to melt cheese on. What else can you use a salamander for, Chef Caesar?
Well, sometimes when you do like barbecue ribs, so like kind of brown the barbecue sauce really nice before it goes out, you kind of put it in there and just put it on the broiler salamander, and it gets nice and caramelized and just gets nice and golden brown. So
absolutely
use it too.
Yep. So this is similar to a broiler at your home. Okay. So just produces heat from the top down. Okay. These are usually pretty cheap, and again, I'd go used on them because they're usually gas and they're going to be inexpensive. Griddle or flat top. I love using these things. They keep their heat really well. They're very fast, very efficient pieces of equipment. But if you're doing a high-end steakhouse concept, maybe you don't want to do a griddle, right? Maybe you don't want a flat top. Places like Smash Burger or In-N-Out Burger, they use griddles like exclusively for their warming their bread up, heating up their bacon, cooking their burgers, cooking their chicken breasts, etc. And there's multiple different varieties of griddles you can buy. You can buy everything from super cheap to steam jacketed griddles, which is what Smash Burger and In-N-Out use, oddly enough. That costs 10 times what your cheapest griddle does, but they're more efficient. Okay, so again, depending on your concept, you're trying to do high volume burger production, you probably want to invest some money into a fancier griddle. If you're just using it to warm bread up, our restaurant here in Denver, we use a little griddle to do our bread for our burgers and whatnot. And we bought one from Walmart, and we buy a new one every 3 months, and it costs us $30, right? And it works great. Okay, it works great for that purpose. But again, our our main volume is not burgers. Our main volume is not sandwiches. It's steaks and composed dishes. So depending on your menu, again, if you're opening a burger concept and you're telling me you're going to buy your griddles from Walmart, I'm going to say maybe not. Okay, that might not work.
And Chef, one more thing. These are very popular, like in a breakfast concept, like do your pancakes, your hash browns, your French toast, even omelets. I mean, you see them a lot, big ones, because I mean they can put a lot of product in a very short amount of time. So I don't know if you guys use that in the place you work for the breakfast company, but they're very popular too for like a breakfast a restaurant.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. If you're doing a breakfast concept and planning to do pancakes at all, you cannot do them without a griddle, period. Like trying to cook pancakes on a burner in a Teflon pan, good luck. I've tried to do it at my house before even, and it's a disaster, right? It burns every time. So these griddles are cool because they heat very evenly, and they hold their heat very evenly. So what happens when you put cold pancake batter in a pan, it cools it down immediately. Okay, then you get sticky spots, you get burning areas, etc. So when you have a nice griddle, invest the money in a nice griddle, you're not going to have as many issues. Okay. So that's the gist of the majority of the equipment. I'm sure I missed a lot of things. I'm going to show you guys a couple of one website that I like a lot. So this is called Tundra. So the website's etundra.com. They have only new things, but they have a ton of different pieces of equipment. And if you have, a certain budget you want to stay in and kind of just get an idea of pricing, you can just type something like griddle, do a quick search, and it's going to pull up a multitude of different griddles, right? So this has a add-on griddle. So this thing would sit on top of burners that already exist. This is a standalone griddle. Okay, so this is like a 30-inch electric. It's going to have gas griddles. It's going to have, again, these types of things would sit on top of burners or on top of a grill, whereas this thing's a standalone, okay, electric unit. So again, this website, etundra.com, type in whatever you're looking for. It's going to give you a multitude of different options to help you get an idea of a budget for equipment. You can spend anywhere between $5,000 and $500,000 on an opening budget for equipment. It all depends on what your concept is, again, and how much your budget is as well. Okay, so if you don't need a walk-in cooler and you're doing, like that bakery example we saw in then one of those first slides there, they had a mixer, a convection oven, some racks, and a prep table. Maybe they have a cooler kicking around somewhere. I guarantee that upfront initial investment, if they bought used items, was probably less than $10,000. Okay, just for equipment. So again, what works for your concept? What works with your menu? What works with flow and design? Those are all very important things we're going to keep talking about. So check out etundra.com if you want to get some ideas about equipment. You can start screwing around on with the facility layout tool as well. Dragging and dropping things. You can copy and paste everything that's on there. So like slides 3 and 4, where we have the front of house and back of house layout and design, you'll be able to copy and paste things there. So if you want 16 burners, you can just copy a 4 burner 4 times, okay, and just paste them wherever you want them. We're not, again, this first assignment is just that first slide, and then our discussion forum as well, which I'm going to pull up here in a second. So make sure, just like we did our slides in the last class for 165, make sure you're using the same sheets every time as you submit assignments to me. In other words, I don't want a separate, your week 1 should be attached to your week 3 and your week 4 and your week 5. Okay, I don't want you to have week 1 one area and then send me your week 5, because then you're going to have a hell of a time putting them all together at the end of the course when you have to do that for future assignments. So keep everything together, and it'll make your life a lot easier. Okay, discussion forum for this week. What restaurant designs inspire you? Show us. Find images from similar concepts to your project and post or link them on the page. What would you copy? What would you change? Okay, that's the forum. So find things that inspire you. Find ideas that you like. Maybe it's in your area. Maybe it's in a different country. Doesn't matter. Look at their design spaces. Look at their menus. Copy and paste links. Copy and paste pictures. Whatever you want to do. Get those posts in by Saturday and 2 responses by Tuesday. Make sure we're constructive with our feedback as well to our future our current classmates. Make sure you're being constructive and offering, but feel free to offer advice too. Like I said before, hey, I've seen this before. I think this piece of equipment worked really well in the concept that I worked in. Maybe think about getting another fryer. Love your ideas, but the colors are a little drab to me. Things like that, right? Those are all constructive pieces of criticism. So, cool. That's all I got. Questions?
Chef, I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm guessing your return on investment for those griddles you buy at Walmart is quite phenomenal.
Absolutely. Well, and here's the thing: if I was buying them, once a month, then it maybe wouldn't make as much sense. But I'm probably overestimating when I say every 3 months. It's probably more like every 6 months. And again, I'm paying $30 for them. So I personally like griddled bread versus just warm bread. It gets that caramelization, that crust on it. And I like that when I eat a burger, especially. And I didn't want to invest in a, $500 or $1,000 griddle. And so $30 works for me.
I use those when I do the videos, when I go to the studio, when I used to do my live sessions. I use those little griddles. It's like electric one, and they do work good.
The only reason that I throw them away is because they get disgusting, because they're hard to clean. Right. The cool thing about the commercial ones is they're all stainless steel, and you can scrub them with a brick or with the chemicals. You can't do that with the Teflon ones; they fall apart. So that's the only downside to them. But no, actually, the breakfast place I worked at when I first started helping them evolve their concept to incorporate more Benedicts on their menu, the way that we started and did some testing was using one of those little griddles. And we bought like $100 one, I think. And now they have, 4 different steam griddles that they use. So they're using top of line crap. But, before you figure out what exactly you want and how and where you want it, it's a great idea to just, I'm cheap though, right? I am, end all, I'm cheap. If it works, I'm gonna figure it out,
I just bought a cast iron. It's a Jimmy Dean brand, I guess, griddle, and I use it on top of my gas stove, and it is absolutely amazing. And I paid $19.99, $20.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Sometimes those things work in commercial settings, sometimes they don't. And again, it depends on your menu, When my guys at the restaurant get more than 4 burgers in, I bet they hate me and wish I would have bought them a different griddle. But for the most part, it works for our concept because we're not selling a lot of those kind of items.
Right.
So.
Chef, they probably liked it because they weren't paying the bill.
That's very true. Very true. Very true. So. All right, cool. Well, that's all I got for you folks. Thanks for hanging out. Don't forget about the discussion forum, and don't forget about the assignment, obviously. Make sure you get everything in by Tuesday. And let me know if you have initial questions on anything. Those of you who aren't doing a traditional kind of concept, if you're confused about how to set up your concept on these slides, definitely just reach out to me. I can help you.
Okay. Okay.